Hi, everyone. This is Dr. B from Steps to the Future, coming to you this week with our college and career conversations. I am excited about this evening's guests because I think it's so important that people get the opportunity to hear from folks in so many different occupations. And the other thing I absolutely love is our guest tonight actually attended two HBCUs, and one happens to be a medical college. So it's important for folks who are interested in the medical field to hear this conversation. If you know someone that's interested, please make sure you share this out with them. If you're watching this on the replay, please let us know. And as we go along, if you have any questions or comments, we certainly hope that you join in the conversation. So before we begin, let me read our guest bio to you, and then we'll have our quick interlude, and then we'll be back. So tonight we are going to have with us Dr. Kennard Lloyd, who is the owner of Cornerstone Family Dentistry here in North Carolina. He was born in Patterson, New Jersey, and he's a graduate of Eastwood High School. And for those of you who might remember, Eastwood High School was the high school that was based, the movie Lean on Me was based on that. So again, I don't know if I'm dating myself or not, but, think about that, folks. He is married to Tramika Lloyd for 25 years. Yay, love those long-lasting marriages. And he has two lovely daughters, Brianna and Cameron Lloyd. He's lived in Fayetteville now for about 19 years. He's been a dentist for more than 20 years. And he's owned, as I said, he owns Cornerstone Family Dentistry. So folks, this is the time when you go grab your quick drink, whatever you're going to do, glass of water, whatever, but sit back. And please make sure you're joining the conversation, and we'll be back with you in a few seconds. Okay, and we have here with us Dr. Lloyd. So Dr. Lloyd, thank you so much for joining in this evening.
Thank you for having me.
I certainly appreciate it. So Dr. Lloyd, tell me a little bit about growing up in Patterson, New Jersey.
How can I put it? I enjoyed it. It actually helped me become who I am. It made me tougher. It made me focus. I learned a lot of good things. You learn a lot of bad things too, but learn a lot of good things. But growing up in Patterson, just imagine a place that have, I want to say last time I saw statistics, we like one of the most densely populated cities in the country.
Oh.
We're like the top 5. So just imagine a whole bunch of people. I make people laugh. My high school was bigger than my college.
Oh my God.
So, like especially in the movie, Eastside High School, when you look at the movie, he kicked out those people. He actually did that like 3 or 4 times.
Oh my God.
It was a total of anywhere from like 600 to 1,000 kids that got kicked out of school.
Oh my goodness.
So just imagine some colleges, and that still don't count the other 2,000-3,000 that's still there, So, but it was very interesting. I wouldn't change it for anything. It actually made me appreciate stuff a little bit more. I enjoy the South a whole lot.
Okay, all right. So we have a guest with us this evening, Michelle Burden. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you showing up. So folks, I'm just going to throw a big shout out there to Michelle, because Michelle is the reason that we have Dr. Lloyd with us tonight. So guys, make sure you give her kudos when you see her, because thanks to her diligence and her support, we have this fantastic guest with us this evening. So how did you end up in South Carolina?
Good question. Growing up I always make people laugh because I wanted a place that had grass, and they coming from the city, they had grass, and they had other things that I did like too. It was about an hour from my grandmother,
Okay.
and I just needed to get. I love my mother, but I needed to get away to grow.
Okay.
I was a mama's boy growing up, so I had to develop those skills to grow and become a man.
Okay.
So, and I knew my family lived in South Carolina, so I've always heard the name South Carolina State. So that made an easy choice for me.
All right, all right. That's good. That's good. So tell us about your time. What did you major in at South Carolina State?
Okay, my major at South Carolina State was I was a biology major, but I had a minor in chemistry and a minor in mathematics.
Okay.
So that's what I majored in, and just pick things that I enjoy. You know, I knew I wanted to be a dentist, so it was pre-dental. It was those were the things I love.
Okay.
Chemistry, biology, math. It was just my interest. Those what I excel at, and I kind of enjoyed it. And I wanted to be a dentist, so it kind of went hand to hand.
So how did you get interested in the career of dentistry?
Well, my uncle had a friend who asked me what would I do with my life, and he said, "What would you do in 10 years?" I said, "I don't know. I would be a doctor or something, but it takes so long." And he convinced me that 10 years gonna be 10 years whether you take advantage of it or not, and he introduced me to a dentist, and ever since about seventh grade I always wanted to be a dentist.
Oh, I love that. I love that your friend said that business about the 10 years, because in 10 years, it's still going to be another 10 years. Because I remember when I was wanted to go back to school for a doctorate and kept hemming and hawing about it. And I said to myself, oh man, but that's like, it takes the program I was going into. I said, oh, it's going to take 3 years. And one of my friends said to me, in 3 years, you're going to be 3 years older. So you can be 3 years older with the doctorate or without the doctorate. And I
Yes.
said, oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. So tell me, what was it? So tell me about attending South Carolina State. Now, what's it like attending at HBCU?
For me, it wasn't strange because I've always been a predominantly black everything. My high school was
Okay.
predominantly black, and then when I but at South Carolina State, it was just the fact that you saw people trying to educate themselves and do better,
Okay.
and that was a driving force. You saw people there just on a whole nother level of focus. What you had, it was just it was a nice atmosphere. You had a lot of things going on, and you met friends for life.
Okay.
You meet friends for life. It was very interesting. It was
Okay.
just nice. It was just nice to be in an area where you can um you can focus, and when you could focus, you could do well. And I was
Mm,
just in. It was just a good environment for me. It was just a very nurturing environment for me.
okay. So prior to going to medical school, what kinds of internships or research maybe did you have an opportunity to be involved in at South Carolina State?
I did a program at the Medical University of South Carolina. I did a pre-dental a dental program down there for one summer, and you take classes, biology classes, chemistry classes, and also too you got a lot of hands-on stuff with dentistry. You went to different dental offices and you shadowed them, and but you actually did hands-on stuff with dentistry, and it was a really good 6-week program where you actually stayed on campus, and we went back and forth to the medical university. We stayed at the College of Charleston campus because the Medical University of South Carolina didn't have a campus. Well, they didn't have dorms, so we stayed at the College of Charleston dorms. But it was very interesting, and at that point, you had a chance to decide whether it was for you or not for you.
Okay. I think that's such a great opportunity for students to have um, real world experience because, like you said, it would be awful to go through something or be in school for something and say, oh, nah, don't want to do this. So I think it's important that students understand that when they have those opportunities to do what you did, to go ahead and do that. So when you did that 6 weeks, tell us a little bit about that 6 weeks. Was it a large program? Were there a lot of students? And how were
Well,
you accepted into that program?
well, just like everything else, you send your transcripts, you write letters, um, and you interview to get the position. And this was a minority based one. It was trying to get more minorities into dentistry. But what was good about the whole time was we weren't the only people there. It was the medical program, the dental program, research program. It was a lot of people there, so it was a chance to really mingle with a bunch of people, and it was a chance to really, like I say, it's always feel good when you find a group of people on that same quest. It makes you feel, it just does, it energizes you, in ways that you would never understand unless you in that that group of people,
Exactly. Exactly. It's always nice being around like-minded people because
Yes,
then you're having those same conversations. You have that same serious thought about what you need to do, that
yes,
same diligence about getting work done,
yes,
about learning. And it's just conducive to doing
yes,
well.
yes,
So that is important. Yeah. So Michelle's commenting that she thinks that is a great program, Michelle. That's something that, I wish more students found out about these programs ahead of time or knew about them or even just took advantage of them. But
yes,
making sure, see, and here's one of the things when you talked about, Dr. Lloyd, about having to send in your transcript. So you are academically prepared to be able to get in this program because they weren't going to take somebody that had failing grades.
no, no, no,
No. So
no,
again, this is where students, you go in there and you do the work from day one. So when an opportunity like that comes up, you're ready for it.
yes, yes, yeah. Well, if it's what you want to do in any career, from day one, you have to take it serious. You
Right.
gotta you gotta map out a plan. It may not always go according to plan, but at least you have a plan, you
Right.
know. And is what I find though, it's good to have somebody with guidance that can kind of guide you along the way and kind of
Mhm.
give you some information, because that helped me a whole lot. People in my life that gave me advice, told me different things,
Yeah.
that was the thing that helped, and that was the point of going to the HBCU that I enjoyed, was that you had you had that tough love.
Yeah.
Some of your professors gave you that tough love, and it came from a good place. It wasn't
Right.
from a place of harm or just to be mean. It was a place to get you to reach your potential.
Right. Right. And that's one of the things, the more I talk to people that went to HBCUs and the more I'm reading about HBCUs, I'm like, man, I should have went to an HBCU. I feel like I missed out on something, it's that whole thing, but every time I talk to someone, they talk about the sense of community, the sense of family, the strong mentoring that takes
Yeah.
place. Um, and sometimes I don't think people understand how important that is.
Yes.
To have people that, like you said, tough love, but it's coming from a place of love.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
You when you look back and you see the people that was really pushing you, it just seemed like they were just hard on you, But when you look back, they really was trying to get me to go to a certain place and get to a certain level. But at the
Right.
time, you're like, man, I can't take it, like. But when you look back, it was out of a good place, and it
Right.
was just get you to prepare you for what was coming.
Yeah. So tell me about applying to medical school. So did you apply to, was Meharry the only medical school you
No,
applied?
no, no. I applied to four. I applied to
Okay.
four. I applied to Meharry, Howard, the Medical University of South Carolina,
Okay.
and New Jersey. In New
Okay.
Jersey. And what was really good about the program, though, that I enjoyed, was the fact that we learned how to interview, and we filled out the packet for dental school, and we had to write our essay. We had to have professors look at our essays. So when it was time to apply for dental school, I already had my packet ready. So I
Okay.
just had to take what I did that summer and transfer it to the new packet and send it out. So
That
I really strongly suggest anybody do an externship or anything in their field, so that they can actually, you'll learn these things and people will teach you, and
right.
you really could use the experience, and it really helps.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic because you hear so much about people who maybe weren't ready for the interview or their package could have been set up better, but they weren't sure how to do it. So again, this is another reason why I think people, like you said, taking advantage of those types of programs, because the experiences that you have are something that you carry with you lifelong. I mean, and having somebody sit there and help you with the interview skills, because that's so important these days. It's
Yes,
so important. It's
yes,
so important.
and you learn so much, and there are some advantages you get that other people don't get, and it's just, when it came to applying to dental school, I'll tell you a little story. When it came to applying to dental school, I already had my packet ready.
Mhm.
So the first the first time you can send your packet out is like June 1st or July 1st. Well, I had my packet ready. I sent it in like the first or second day. So what's interesting when I applied to New Jersey, um, I didn't never visit the school or nothing, but I got into the school. But I talked to one of the guys that worked there who was, who interviewed me.
Mhm.
And this is what he told me. He said, when you apply, you were competing against 300 students. And that was in June. But after I got accepted in December and I came home to visit for my Christmas break, I went back home and
Mhm.
visit him. He said, now we got over 3,000 applicants.
Wow.
So just knowing that if you get it out early, you're not competing against
Yes.
so many people you can have. It's just an
Right.
event. It's just knowing these little things that can help you.
Right. That is so important. I know that's one of the things that one of the conversations we were having today in our conference about what are we going to be doing differently in working with our seniors that are applying to college. And that was one of the things, applying early, because we're seeing that colleges are sometimes admission decisions are more favorable for those who are applying early because the pool is smaller. Just like
Yep.
you said, the pool is smaller. Then because then so many more people come during regular decisions. So hey, get your stuff ready. So when those applications open up, August 1st and so on, so be ready.
Yeah.
Be ready
Have
for
it
those.
ready.
Yep.
Have it
I love
ready.
that.
It's just being prepared. That's the whole thing, is being prepared.
Yeah. I love that whole idea. So tell us about dental school. What is that like? I mean,
I try to tell all of the young people that I meet that first year of dental school is equivalent to your last 3 years of college.
oh,
That's your first year. Pretty much everything you took in college, your last 3 years is going to be thrown at you your first year, and it's just you're always on your grind. You get time to yourself sometimes, because that's just normal. You got to take time for yourself, but you always in the book. If you're trying to stay on top of it, you're always in the book, because this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. So
right.
you got to take it serious. So you want to know this information, and what you find that, like in college, you had a book for one time, well, for one subject. When you get
Mhm.
to middle school, you got 3 books for one subject, and you're reading 3 books trying to get figure this thing out. So, and then it's exciting and scary at the same time, because you're learning some new stuff, but it's something you never done before, and some of
Yeah.
the information you had before. But for me, it was a joy because I love working with my hands. So being a dentist, you know, I really enjoy that, of making stuff and doing stuff. So for
Okay.
me, I really love that part about it.
Okay. So tell us about some of the classes that you take to become a dentist.
Um,
What
in
was your
dental
most
school,
what was your most challenging class?
I would say my most challenging class will probably be gross anatomy.
Ugh, okay.
That would probably be, because I don't care how many cats you cut, I don't care how many frogs you cut. It's not the same as a human body, and you got to be so delicate not to cut things up. And
Yeah.
I would say that probably was my most challenging, because you had two sides of it. You had the academic side of the books, and then you had to go back in to prove that you knew that part by looking at the body and identifying things. But I think that probably was my most challenging out of everything I did in dental school was gross anatomy.
Okay. All right. So yeah, that anatomy. There's something
Yeah.
about that. Um, so what was your most did you have like a most exciting experience, or was there something in dental school that um surprised you?
No, it's because I did the program, so nothing really surprised me. We had a heads up on things, but there was things that I enjoyed doing more than other things. Like I always enjoyed going to the oral surgeon residency, or going to the oral surgeon department for extractions and stuff. I've always enjoyed that.
Okay.
Um, Anything with my hands that I did, like I to this day I still like doing lab work. It's just that I don't have the time to do it like I did
Okay.
when I first started. But I still enjoy getting in there, making crowns, and just
Okay.
getting my hands in it, doing lab work. So I still love that part. So for me, it was a good fit, dentistry, because I could use my hands. But surprising, I would probably say surprising I would probably say the surprising part was what get thrown at you your freshman year. That probably I was not, you had an idea what to expect,
Mhm.
but once you get into it, it's a whole nother, it's like, oh my God, I just now understand why I'm in class from 8 to 5 every day. You literally in class. It's like, when you go to college, you're not in class from 8 to 5 anymore. You got
Mhm.
a class at 8, one at 10. No, we went, and then we were, what was crazy is you'll have lab projects, and there'll be nights you'll be there to 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, working on lab projects. It used to be so crazy sometimes. One person be going home and another person be coming in. I mean, it's like you're like, I gotta go get some sleep. You'll go get some sleep, and you come back, they be just leaving 7 o'clock in the morning. They just leaving, and you just getting there. But that was the most surprising, that I didn't think that projects and stuff that you work on would be that intense, but it really was, but that was probably the
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, so how long is dental school from start to finish?
4 years. It's four
Another four
years
years.
unless you decide to do a residency or get a specialty. So,
Okay.
but normally just after the one thing that's different between dentistry and medicine is the fact that after 4 years, you could go take a state license exam and
Hmm.
start working. In medical school, they all got to do residency. In
Residency.
dentistry, we don't have enough residency for everybody, so
Okay.
everybody don't have to do one. Or if you want to specialize, you can.
Okay. All right. That's interesting to know. That's interesting to know. So had you ever considered specializing?
Yes, I did. I wanted to specialize in oral maxillofacial prosthodontics.
Oh, so tell us, what is that? That's a mouthful.
Well, what it is, it's the person that, like, say when people get disfigured from a car accident or something happened to their
Okay.
face, and you're the person who you'll make their dentures work fit. And if they need a nose, you put a nose on. If they need an eye, you put an eye on. If they need an ear, you put an ear on. So
Okay.
I was kind of interested in that. But when you look at another 6 more years, it's like, whew,
Yeah.
that's a lot of time. But at the time, I was ready to get out. I was ready to get out. So I said, nah, I think I'll put down the back burner. I may come back to it, but the closest I got to that is I got my IV sedation license. I have a license to IV, which basically what that is, I can put an IV in people's arm,
Okay.
put them to sleep. But I did a lot of surgical extractions back then. I used to do like a lot of wisdom teeth that
Okay.
was impacted, lay flaps, cut them out of the bone, and so that kind of gave me that feel of kind of doing the oral surgery thing for a little while. And when you're young, it's exciting and fun, and as you
Mhm.
start getting older, it's like hour of this is not fun as much as it used to be. So, but that's the closest I got to it, was that.
Okay. Okay. So what's a typical day like for a dentist, or is there such a thing as a typical day?
A typical day is a day that flow nice.
Okay.
That's what you'll call a typical day. In a dental life, anything can happen at any time. It's like
Okay.
you could do one extraction, 25 minutes. The same exact tooth on the next person, you're in there for an hour and a half. Now that changes your whole day. So now you
Mm,
got the other patients you got to get to. And so most of the time you pray that everything just goes smooth so you can stay on time.
right.
But a typical day, like, you may come in that first hour, you may do a couple of fillings and extraction. And then because you have hygienists, you have to do exams as well. So the
Right.
first hour, you may do a couple of exams, extractions, fillings. Maybe the next couple of hours, you may do a crown, prep a tooth for a crown. Normally, that's going to take
Mhm.
you about an hour, hour and a half to do something like that. So it's kind of, what I love about it is not the exact same day every day. It's
Okay.
something different. It's similar, but not exactly the same.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I know. Having to do the same thing every day for me would be very boring. So that's, one of the reasons I love what I do, because no 2 days are the same. So
Correct.
that is great, great to have. So how is it? So first of all, before I even ask that question, so you went from Tennessee. How did you get to North Carolina?
Good question. My first job, I was a commission officer for United States Public Health Service.
Okay.
Basically, our boss was the Surgeon General, but we fell under the naval branch, so we wore naval uniforms. But my duty station was actually a prison. I
Oh,
actually worked at a federal institution in Estill, South Carolina. was my first job as I worked in a prison, but I was a commissioned officer. And
Okay.
then working in what was really weird, like I said, when you grow up in Patterson, a lot of crazy things happen. Somebody I went to high school with was actually in the prison. and so you got to write all these letters to the warden and everybody that y'all don't talk to each other and stuff. And I was like, you know what, this is getting a little too much for me. And then the other doctors at the prison was like, you too young, you need to go work in private practice, you need to get out of here. And then a friend called me from North Carolina. He said, why don't you come up to North Carolina? And I came up to North Carolina and worked at a health clinic in Stedman. And then
Okay.
that's how I got to North Carolina. A friend called me and I said, well, okay, let me come up there and work for a little while,
Mhm.
and then I've been here ever since. So that's how I actually got to North Carolina.
Okay. So for folks that are joining in, we're here with Dr. Kennard Lloyd, who is a dentist, and he's the owner of Cornerstone Family Dentistry in Hope Mills, North Carolina. So for those of you that may be looking for a new dentist, here's his website. So you can go on there and check things out. So you started out, I guess, working at another dentistry practice. How did you go from that to deciding to open up your own practice?
Good question. I worked in private. Well, at first I worked in public health setting for about 4.5 years. And
Okay.
then from there, I wanted to go to the private sector. So I worked for another dentist for about another 4.5 years. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm ready to open up my own practice, kind of be my own boss and kind of do it my way, And at that point, that's when I established my own office. And now that was that was the scariest part right there, starting that, trying to get a business off the ground
Right.
and keep family life happy and that kind of things and spend time with your kids and stuff. So that was whew, but
Yeah.
it was well worth it. It was well worth it.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like it's not for the faint of heart.
No, you got to keep pushing. You got to keep, because you have your challenges. That's the
Okay.
easy way to put it. You have your challenge, whether it's trying to keep all the bills paid or
Mhm.
staff leaving, or it's always something going on.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about any professional associations to which you belong.
Um, the one that that's is the Old North Carolina State, which is mostly black dentists in the state of North Carolina, and
Okay.
that the ADA, ADA just to keep
Mhm.
everything, but those are the main two that I deal with. But I love the Old North State because, well, when we used to have our meeting, we used to have fall meeting in Charlotte. We met
Mhm.
with the Palmetto State, which was the all black dental, and we all would meet in Charlotte. So you get to meet people from South Carolina, and so
Okay.
for me, I was meeting some people that I knew that I haven't had a chance to see in a while. So it was
Right.
a chance to catch up with them. So, and those are the two main ones I associate with right there.
Okay. So what would you tell a young person about the importance of belonging to your professional association?
Well, that's the way you keep up with what's going on, what's new, the new regulations, and you get a chance to also to talk to other people and see how they're doing things, and maybe it's something that you can learn or something that you can change. And it's really to stay on top of things. If you
Right.
have to go to these meetings to find out what's new and what's going on, just to stay on top of things, just to make sure that you current with everything. Because there's times when you can you think you could be doing it right, but it's just
Mm.
not. It's just not what the what the state say you need to be doing, And so talking to other people, then you get to take continuing ed on how to improve or the updates and the codes and new things so that you could just stay on top of stuff. It's really
Okay.
good.
So are there state requirements that you have to do, like so many hours of continuing ed or?
Yes, yes. We have to do 15 hours every year of continuing
Okay.
ed, which it's not hard for 15, but most people we always go above because
Right.
you're always trying to, it's something OSHA or it's something you're taking just to make sure that you're on top of things. So, and I know we have a guy that comes in and certain things to update us on stuff, especially with HR stuff, to
Right.
make sure that so it's always some continuing ed that I'm getting. So you end up with 25, 30 hours easy.
Easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the challenge of staying abreast of the professional work of being a dentist, but then also being a business owner.
Yes. Yes. That's the part that dental school don't teach you.
Yes, I kind of learned that the hard way because I said, "Oh yeah, I got this college counseling part down. I know what I'm doing." But it's like, "Oh, business owner. Okay, so what does that look like? I have to do what? What paperwork? Oh,
Yes.
okay, all right. Let me keep better track of this because this is the business part of it. So if
Yes.
I always say if I could just do this all the time I would, but then I always have to make time for that business part of it, that there's paperwork that has to be done. And being a solopreneur, I'm doing my paperwork and everything
Yes.
too. So
Yes.
yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But it's for me it's worth it.
Yes.
Not everybody see it different. For me it's worth it, down the line. It just takes some time to get there, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah. So what would you say to a young person who is considering a career in dentistry?
I would say if you're in high school or even in college, go talk to a dentist or talk to your dentist.
Mm,
Ask them, can you shadow them? Ask them, can you come just hang out and see what they do and just make sure it's something that you want to do? Because, you know, I'll give you a story. It was a guy in the class ahead of me when he didn't realize in gross anatomy you'd be working on real bodies. So he passed out in gross anatomy the first day because it's live bodies there. He'd had no, what I'm saying? Like, but that's something if you talk to somebody ahead of time, you would have had an idea that you was gonna see a
right.
live body. So those are the kind of things that kind of you can ask when it's just you and that person, and you can kind
Right.
of get to know something or just see what they do, just to see, because sometimes there's things that people like, for me, I don't have a problem with blood, but I know there's people that have problems with blood. So if they come and shadow you and they see blood, like, all right, it's not for me. You can get that out the way early before you get into
Exactly.
college or into dental school and be like, you know what, I really don't like this. We want to find that out early and get all the questions that you can. Just, I think really, one, try to find a mentor, and two, even if you don't have a mentor, just go and talk to a dentist and just see what they do. Let them, just ask them, can you come in and just see what they do?
Yeah, I love that advice that you just gave about having a mentor because it's so important to have someone that, first of all, is going to hold you accountable for doing things, and someone that you feel safe with having those conversations. Because I know when we're learning new things, we all have, doubts about our abilities to do something or not quite sure how to move to the next step. So having that person to bounce things off of is incredibly important.
Yes.
So young folks out there, families, whoever's listening to this, when you have an opportunity to connect with somebody as a mentor, please make sure you do it. And that second piece you gave about shadowing, oh my God, I can't tell you the number of times a student has said something to me about, well, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And I said, well, what do you know about it? And they know either the TV version or the movie version. And I'm like, okay, let's do the real life version. So I remember one young man, he said, he wanted to be a physician. And I said, well, shadow one or do an informational interview. Well, how am I going to do that? I said, well, do you go to the doctor every year? He said, yeah. I said, ask your doctor. And I said, people love to give back. And that's a really rewarding way for people to give back and share what they do, especially if somebody's in a career that they love.
Yeah.
You know, I said, but you have to ask. And if they can't do it, then, they'll reach out and find somebody else that can help you out. But you've got to ask and you've got to be
Yeah.
willing to do it.
Yes. And you're right. It's just, it's two folds, because one, you got to be willing to ask and go. And also two, I think as professionals, we want to. We don't mind it, especially if we find that one that's really asking the questions. Your ears pinned back and you listening. And I think piggyback off what you were saying earlier when we was talking about program for exposure. I think exposure is a very big thing. Like you can ask a lot of people. You just walk up to people on the street and be like, "How you be an astronaut?" Most people can't tell you because they never met one.
Right.
And they don't know what an astronaut do to be an astronaut. Most of us
Exactly.
don't. And that's what our kids are looking for. The reason our kids are stumbling right now is because we're not exposing them to so many careers.
Yes.
We need something where we expose them to bankers, we expose them to investment bankers, they need this exposure to go, you know what, that might be something I want to do. But right now, all they know is the basic stuff that they see on TV or what
Right.
anybody's talking about, but they don't know that, like we were saying, the everyday people that make it work and is making it happen every day.
Yes.
We don't expose them to them. Like we don't expose them to welders, AC and heating guys.
Hmm.
We don't expose our kids to
No,
that.
we don't.
And
No.
that's the biggest thing I think my generation is feeling, this generation, is that we're not making ourselves available to them so that they have an idea what they may want to do, so they don't spin their wheels. College is not for everybody, but
No.
everybody deserves a career. You know,
Yes.
everybody deserves a career. You know,
Yes.
so I think what you were saying, exposure, I think that's one of the biggest things that we have to work on for our kids to move into the next generation, because
Hmm.
you know, we all can't play ball, we all can't rap, we all can't act, sing, you know,
Right.
we all can't do that. But there's so many other jobs that you could do.
Exactly.
I think it's one of those things that exposure and that mentoring, and we got to start opening those channels up so our kids can have avenues to go.
Yeah. You're so right, Dr. Lloyd, because I was thinking earlier when you were talking about um, you became a dentist because somebody exposed you to what dentistry was at a young age, but you already had that natural aptitude in math and in science. So with those aptitudes, you could have went into different fields, but because of that exposure to dentistry early, you said, oh, this is something that is of interest to me. And I like how you connected the work of dentistry to working with your hands. People have to know what their working style is, what their learning style is, so that they're looking at careers that are using those aptitudes and those interests to the highest degree, instead of, well, I'm just going to do this because pays well, or that's
Yeah.
what somebody said I should do, or yeah, that's what John down the street said would be good. You have
Yes.
to do what works for you.
Yes. You got to. Well, what I try to tell the younger kids is you got to learn you. If you don't learn who you
Yes.
are, you lost.
Yeah.
It's nothing I can do to help you. It's just, it's nothing I can do to help you. I mean, if your best attribute is writing papers, dentistry is not for you. You know, it's just not for you. You need to find somebody with an English degree. You know,
Yeah.
but that's a part of learning yourself. And for me, like you say, I was very fortunate that I was able to learn the stuff I like early. I always liked math. I
Mhm.
always liked science. You know, those are things I've always enjoyed. So,
Right.
and then working with my hands, I just always loved working with my hands. So it kind of all just fell in place. I was very lucky and very blessed that it
Right.
all fell in place. And I had people around me that would talk to me, and that helped a whole lot, you know.
Hmm.
And everybody don't have somebody to talk to, and I think that's what we got to start opening up, so people do have, you know, we can't put it all on the counselor.
No, we can't, because you know what? Back in the day when I was a high school counselor, when you have like 350 kids on your caseload and you're trying to do college counseling, you're trying to do mental health counseling, you're trying to make sure their academics are where they're supposed to be, there's only so much you can do within a school day. So it really is incumbent upon the village out there to
It
expose
is.
kids to things. It
Yes,
really is.
I've been very blessed because even in high school, I did externships at different colleges, like
Yeah.
during the summer or during the school year. So I was able to nurture the things that
Yeah.
I enjoy, but I had people around me to talk to, like just simple stuff. Like most people don't even take serious.
Yeah.
Like I was doing a program at the William Patterson University one summer, and one of the counselors, like, you know, because she saw me doodling, she's like, well,
Mhm.
doodling is not bad because you're still listening, and when you hear something you're listening to, just go ahead and write it down, you know, and just
Right.
stuff like that will take you a long way that you don't even think much of, you know. So, and I think that's where we got to get back to,
Mm-hmm.
those types of things. Back when I was growing up, we had lots of them, lots of programs where kids could go and learn. And, I know it was one I wanted to do when I was in high school was in engineering, because that was one of my choices too. Was first it was dentistry, engineering, and I'm gonna make you laugh because my third choice was a cameraman for Soul Train. I don't know why I thought that was a great job.
Well, that's technical skills and using your hand. Yeah.
I thought it was a great job. Like, hey, somebody paying you to carry a camera around. How bad can that be? So I was like, and then you get on a movie crew that pay you to go across seas. I mean, it's a great, but it's kind of funny how dentistry, engineering, and cameraman. I really don't know how I came up with cameraman other than watching Soul Train, but I just thought it was a good job. But it's just, we gotta give our kids, avenues to go to.
Yeah, I love what you said about getting to know yourself. So I was having a conversation with some parents, and I was talking about how, and again, it's no fault of the schools. It's just that kids don't have opportunities to think about who they are, what they like to do, because everything is either so jam-packed into get this work done, get this, do this, do this, do this. So they might take an interest inventory, but then not have an opportunity to have a conversation about, well, what are the results of that inventory mean?
Yes.
How do you figure out what it is that you like? So just because you have an aptitude for something doesn't mean you have an interest in it. So how do you figure those two things out? I love what you said about how, you always had opportunities. So I think back to, like, I told people, I said, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, I think like when I was in 6th or 7th grade, but that was because I loved school. I wasn't quite sure how you became a teacher. I just knew I loved school. But because I always talked about that, I was fortunate to have adults in my life that always pointed me in the right direction. And I was a first generation college student. So there wasn't anyone in my family before me that went to college, so didn't really know how to do it. But I remember I had my, one of my high school counselors my junior year, and he was great. My 7th grade counselor, my junior counselor, and my senior year counselor were fantastic. And he knew that I liked the whole idea of becoming a teacher. And I'll never forget, he said, hey, are you looking for an after school job? And I said, well, yeah, kind of, sort of. And there was actually a couple, they were teachers. They were looking for a high school student to correct their papers, to come to there. And they lived, and he asked me because they didn't live that far from where I lived. So I used to go over their house, like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. And my job was to correct their papers. So the job was great until I started critiquing them on their lessons. Then they said, oh no, you might have to go. You might have to go.
We got to find somebody else to do this.
Yeah, we got to find somebody else. She's talking a bit too much. So always having jobs, though, another thing, one of my first jobs was working in a jewelry factory. So Rhode Island used to be the costume jewelry capital of the United States. So there were companies like Speidel and Monet that were headquartered there. So you could always find a factory job. Those are gone now. One of my first jobs was working in a jewelry factory as a foot press operator. So my job was to take the 2 pieces of clip-on earrings, put them in the foot press, and press the little pedal. And that job was 3 to 7, Monday through Thursday. It was so boring. And it made me know that I don't want to do this. So I need to find, so this is more incentive to go to college and become a teacher. I don't want to do work like this.
Yes.
So it was mind numbing. It was mind numbing.
But you got to have those experiences to realize that's not what you want to do.
Yes.
You have to have them. You have to. And, it's a part of learning who you are. Mm-hmm. My experience was similar. I used to, sometimes on my days off and sometimes during the summer, I used to go to work with my stepdad, and my stepdad worked in a furniture business, and they would come pick a whole house up, mm-hmm. and pack it on the truck and then take it off the truck and put it in the new house. Yeah. Well, I realized that was not for me. Mm-hmm. that was some hard work. And my stepdad used to always say, "Oh man, you better get your education," So, so that you can at least learn what you don't. Even if you can't figure out what you like, you can find out what you don't like by just trying stuff.
And that's
They,
so important. That is so important. And again, parents, there's opportunities for you to have those conversations with your kids. I mean, on my website, you can go on my website, and under resources, there's all these career resources and websites that you can look at to help your kids with that self-reflection, because it really is about knowing who you are, what you like to do. I knew for me that working in an office was not going to cut it. Not going to cut it. And one job I had one summer, and this is the other thing, a lot of kids don't work, but one summer job I had, and it was through a program. I was working at Rhode Island Hospital in the emergency room, as kind of like a general aide, but it was one of those summer programs.
Yeah.
But in seeing some of the things that I saw in the emergency room, I say, yeah, medicine is not for me. Can't do this. Just put me in a classroom, but not here doing a medical field. I said, not even close. But again, that's so, so, so important. So one of the things I always like to ask my guests is about a book. So I was interested. So the book that you recommended was Chain and Images of Psychology of Slavery by Naeem Akbar. So what is it about this book that made you recommend it?
Well, I recommend it to read, because you'll be surprised of a lot of things that we do as a culture stem from slavery still. We talk about the impact of slavery, how how people say you should be over it, but a lot of things we still do comes from that era. And the book was so amazing because when it was written in the 70s, it's still relatable now. It's really interesting how those things 300 years ago, 400, still affect us and how we think and see things. It's even the most interesting thing about the book that was very interesting was how we don't unite, and it stems from way back then, and we still have that same problem now. And it's amazing that something could be so ingrained that you could be so far from it, but it ingrained in you so much, you still react the same way. So the book was very fascinating on a lot of things that he compared from how we buy cars and jewelry, and it's so interesting that he can tie it into way back then, like where they would give people clothes, and it's amazing that it's still psychologically it still has us in a certain spot, and it's really weird. I mean, but it's very interesting. I think it's one of those things that when people read it, it makes you look at it a different way and make you go, okay, what do I need to do to be better? So I think that's why it's a very interesting book that people should read.
Okay, you just put another book on my reading list, because I think it's so important that we read, but I think it's crucial that we know our history. It's so important that we know our history, and unfortunately, it's not taught in schools. And as a former history teacher, I was having this conversation with someone. I said, I went through my whole 4 years in college as a history major, and I said, and when was the first time I heard about Tulsa, Oklahoma? I heard about when I was teaching, but that was only because of a different book that I was using that wasn't part of the recommended curriculum.
Yes.
And I said, but never had it as a history major. Just watching some of the documentaries that are on now, some of the books that I'm reading. I'm just finishing up 400 Souls, which was edited by Ibram Kendi and Keisha Blaine. And they look at 400 years from 1619 to 2019. And they have, I think, 80 authors in the book, and each author takes like a 5-year span of time.
Okay.
That book it's taking me time to read it because you have to go back and digest what you just read.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you're like, wow, okay. So just like you said with your book, it makes you go back and say, oh, so that's why.
Yes.
Oh, so this is what really happened and not this other thing that I thought happened. So it's so important. And I'm finding that I'm learning more history now than when I majored in history,
Well,
you know.
I think our fight for history, we got to stop making it feel like it's separate.
Yes.
It's just American history.
Right.
And that's how we have to rewrite the narrative that we want American history, all of it.
All of it.
And that's how we got to frame it. If you keep framing it as Black history, then it's like it's not even part of America. It's like it's this stuff over here, and that gives people a chance to go see. I don't want to learn that. But when you say,
Mhm.
okay, you don't want to learn American history, how could they argue that fight? That fight,
Right.
and
Right.
that's how we have to reshape the narrative that we're talking. We're taking a narrative that somebody else is giving us. Oh, Black history. No, it's American history,
Right.
and everybody should be included. The natives, um,
Everyone. Yes. Yeah.
everybody. It's just if it's American history issue, I find it interesting that we'll call it American history, but all we ever really read is about the Declaration of Independence and that era. You
Right.
really don't leave behind past that era. Like
I
once you
know.
get to the 50 states and stuff, we don't really talk about American history from that point forward.
Yeah.
We don't. American history is just simply from when we left England till we dropped the first slaves, got the 50 states. It's over.
I know.
You
It's
know,
yeah. U.S. history does not get the full U.S. history. Full U.S. history does not get its due in schools, and I remember as a history teacher feeling so constrained as far as what I was able to teach because there's a prescribed curriculum. There are certain books that you have to use. So I was always trying to supplement, but there's only so much time in the
yeah,
school day, and
yep.
kids can only and nowadays, with everything being tested, except they don't test social studies, unfortunately, it's important to do that. I've been recommending to folks this documentary on Netflix, High on the Hog, because it's about African American cuisine and its place in U.S. history.
Okay.
And when you watch that, for me, first of all, I'm watching, so it's four episodes, but in watching it, for me, I'm like, yeah, that's why my mother did this or why my grandmother did that. But I think a lot of folks would be surprised about um, rice. You know, that came from the South Carolina was able to be such a producer of rice because of the talent of the enslaved people who had that knowledge of how to grow rice. Same thing with okra, which came from Africa and was transported here with the enslaved people. So there's so much in the cuisine of the South that spread to other parts of the United States. And when you see that and the way they do it, it's so good. I've watched it once already. I've got to watch it a second time because I know I've missed stuff because there's just so much to see. But I would definitely recommend that because they just did such a good job of reciting facts but
but
showing you.
but that's history. And
Yes.
that's how it's supposed to be taught. You don't take out what you
Yeah.
want and and,
Mm,
and push a narrative that you got to talk about all of it. And
you
I
do.
think that's for us. We have to fight to say call it American history. We
Yeah.
want all. I think that's how we should fight. We want all American history.
Yeah.
We don't want just Black History Month. We want all American history. And I think when we start looking at it that way, we can get included into these books and different things because it's out there from the cuisine. I mean, it's really funny though. If you took African Americans and Hispanics, if you took all the minorities and you look at American culture, there is no American culture without the minorities. I mean, when you
Yeah.
really look at jazz and
Mhm.
everything, from even language, you
Yes.
know, we've have. from language, we have changed. Things that we said are now popular,
Right.
and it's just the whole culture is us and every minority. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so we got to understand our proper place, and I think that's where HBCUs have to start standing out.
Yeah.
Because if you look at just simple stuff like the first, Martin Luther King, HBCU graduate. I mean, we've
Right.
always produced greatness. It's just that we never allowed ourselves to celebrate it, you
Right.
know. And we have to get to the point where we celebrate each other for the good things that we do. And it's okay. It's
You
okay.
do. You
It's
do.
okay to be happy. It's good when I see other doctors and
Yes.
lawyers, and
Yes.
it just make me like, we used to have what was it? It used to be like every fourth convention in the National Dental Association,
Mm-hmm.
the National Dental Association, and the National Medical Association, the National Lawyers, all the black associations will all meet in one city at one time and overlap each other. And
Oh.
that used to be, I know I went when I was in my freshman year of dental school. I went to the one when it was in Chicago, and it was the dentists, the lawyers, and the medical doctors. And
Yeah.
it was just such a great thing to see so many people that look like me and professional and
Right.
doing great things. But we don't celebrate that.
Right.
We don't celebrate that, you know.
And it's so important. It's so important to do that. I know one of the things I recommend to my students is finding out about the professional associations. So I remember one young man I was working with who is now going into his senior year at the University of Michigan. So he wanted to be an engineer, African American young man, and I said, you need to join the National Association of Black Engineers. I said, because there is a high school, there are high school chapters, and I think your state has one. Looked into it. He ended up joining it, stayed with it in college. And so we're connected on LinkedIn. And I remember one day I'm on his LinkedIn account just about at the end of his freshman year, or that summer at the end of his freshman year. And I saw he had this fantastic internship at Raytheon. I'm like, how did you get that? So, I messaged him and I said, how did you get that internship? I said, that's like an amazing company to have an internship with, at the end of your freshman year. From his membership in that organization, he went to one of their conferences that was close by. So it's like a whole career fair. So you have all these employers, all these companies from around the world. And he was talking with, the person at the Raytheon table and got offered an internship. And that membership, he said, has really served him well. So that's what I'm telling kids. You need to find out about those professional memberships.
Yes.
You need to figure out how you can, there's the National Society, the National Association of Black Journalists.
Yes.
Find out about those. And if there isn't a high school chapter, then find out those are people that you can call on for informational interviews and say, I want to be a journalist. What else should I be doing? This is what I'm doing. What else should I be doing? But tap that expertise out there. And like you said, we've got to celebrate each other.
Yes, we do. We got to stop. We got to. I mean, it's so many of us doing so many great things that we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. And we got to learn to celebrate each other. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to be happy. And it's okay to see others doing well. It's okay. It's I guess I look at it as, if there's someone else is doing well, then imagine all of us getting together and having a good time. And it's just that's where the enjoyment at. You can't be selfish. You can't, can't have it all yourself. It's very selfish, You got to celebrate each other. And it's one of those things that we need to learn to celebrate each other. And as the kids behind us see us do it, they will understand, and they'll be more likely to do the same thing. We gotta live and show what we want them to do.
Exactly.
We can't just tell them anymore. Like they not, that don't work anymore. That was our generation. What I'm saying? Like, my mama said I better do something, so I'm gonna do it. Nowadays that don't work like it used to work. So we have to actually live it.
Attention.
Yeah,
they're paying attention differently. That's one of the things I loved about that book I was reading, 400 Souls. because in the back of the book, there's a short biography of each one of the authors.
Uh-huh.
And I remember, and somebody said, because we were having a book discussion about it the other week, and somebody goes, "What did you like about the book?" I said, "Well, for each chapter, I would go in the back and read the bio." I I said, reading about all that Black excellence was amazing. I said, these people are professors, these people are journalists, they have these awards that are amazing. And I said, and that's just 80 people.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
imagine, what that looks like exponentially if you're out there really paying attention and just seeing. And I'm just like, oh my God. I said, I was just, and just from reading about them, I've created another book list because they all wrote books or they're, articles and different journals. I'm like, oh my God, I'll never stop reading because now I
Just
feel
from that alone, it's just
like,
infinite.
right, right. So it is so important. So, Dr. Lloyd, I am so thrilled that you were able to join us this evening. So, what last piece of advice would you give to young folks?
Young folks, I would say, one, learn yourself, what you like, what you don't like. Two, find a mentor, somebody that you could talk to, run things by. Because even as most people don't realize. I mean, I still have people I talk to. I mean, I still have people I talk to that's been through life and still developing. And search for externships, different places to see if these are the things that you want to do. That's a better way to understand what's going on in the field and whether you like it or not. And if you don't know anybody, talk to somebody who may know somebody. You never know. Just ask somebody and try to shadow somebody to see what they do for a living, and just see if it's one of those things. And try to look for organizations and stuff like you said that's in the area of what you want to do, to make sure that's what something that you truly want to do. So you don't spend so much time trying to figure out what you
Right,
want to do.
right,
It's kind of counterproductive. Try to for at least if you try something and you find out you didn't like it, that's something you could take off the list.
right.
You could take it off. You don't have to worry about it no more. It's not something you like. Move on to
Yep,
something else till you find something else you like.
yep.
And it's just so many great things out there. Like I said, I enjoyed my time at HBCU. Probably one of the best things that ever happened to me at HBCU. I met my wife, so
Oh,
that's probably the best thing that ever happened to me. So,
oh,
so
that's great. That's great.
so it's just they need to, and also they have to have both parts. I want them to understand that, like, the younger people that I talk to is, yes, you have to be focused and know what you're shooting for, but at the
Mhm.
same time, you got to smell the roses. You still got to enjoy life. You can't be. That's the one thing that I would say from my experience, I might have been a little too focused, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I was always for the next thing. When I was in high school, I didn't enjoy high school too much because I was worried about ready to get in college. I'm always trying to prepare to get in college.
yeah,
When I got in college, I didn't enjoy college that much because I'm trying to get in dental school. I'm trying to do everything I can to get. So things that I should have been enjoying when I was in college, I wasn't. Then when I got to dental, the funny part about these stories, when I got to dental school, like, okay, I got to hurry up and get out to the real world. Get out to the real world, getting on my own practice, and it's like, okay, what I do next, and then,
yeah,
and I spent all this time trying to get to a place and never enjoyed life. So
yeah.
now I try to do a little bit more, trying to enjoy life and balance it. But
Yes,
if I could tell them anything as they're going along from high school through college to their next journey, learn to balance it. Stay focused on what you're trying to accomplish, but take some time. Go to the movies, go to the park, spend a little time by yourself, listen to some music. It's okay. It's okay. And allow yourself to enjoy these things. And I think for myself, I didn't allow myself to enjoy a lot of it because I was just trying to be so focused. Like, I got to get there.
mhm.
Because just like you, I wasn't the first to go to college in my family, but I was the first to graduate. You
Okay.
know,
Yes,
so
yes,
but it's just one of those things. Like, sometimes it could be a weight on your shoulder. Like, man, I got to
hmm,
do this. So you're so focused. You're so
yeah,
so I want them to be focused and I want them to prepare, but at the same time, I want them to be kids. What I'm
yeah,
saying? Go to the movies. It's okay. Go have a slice of pizza. It's okay. And you get back on it tomorrow, even
right,
when you get to college, focus, but have that time to yourself. And so sometimes when I look back, it's like there were some things I should have done to enjoy myself, but I was just so focused,
Yeah.
and I just want them to understand there's nothing wrong with being focused, but you got to balance it,
Yes.
you know.
So true. So what do you do now for self-care?
For self-care, I'll grill, or
Okay.
on good days I'll go play some golf,
Okay.
go play some golf, or just sit on the couch and just watch a show that don't mean nothing.
Okay.
Just
Yes.
it's just because I can sit here, and I'll do that. So I try to now try to balance, and I find when you balance, you in a better position with
Yeah.
things that you're trying to accomplish, or your family, or you're in a better you how can I put it? You're more relaxed and not as tense.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And I don't want them to be tense. I want them to understand you stay focused and you do the right things will fall in place. But you
Right.
gotta do the right things, but you also too have to do the things to make sure that you're okay, and that you're relaxed, you're not tense, and you're happy. It's about being happy. This journey is about trying to be happy and enjoying it. Because if it's all work, I mean,
Yeah.
what's the point? What's the point? I mean, you got to enjoy your work. Don't get me wrong, and that's one point. That's one part of enjoyment. But do you enjoy yourself outside of work as well? And
Yeah.
that's
That's so
some
true.
of us. Some of us got to work a little bit harder than others to get there. Some people really enjoy themselves outside of work. But it's just something that some of us have to do a little bit more than others. And I
Right.
was kind of, I laugh because where I grew up. And I
Yeah.
think where I grew up, my whole fight was trying to get out. I was born and raised in the projects,
Yeah.
so my whole fight was I ain't trying to come back here.
Right. Mhm.
Once I'm out, I'm out. I'm not trying to come back.
Yep.
And that's always been my fight. So I've always been so focused. So it's like in my mind, it was never I need to relax and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
No, I got to crack this book because I'm trying to go somewhere. And there's nothing
Exactly.
wrong with that, but I didn't balance it. And I just want them to understand to balance it out, and they'll be okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And I hope people who are watching this live are hearing this sage advice coming from Dr. Lloyd. And those of you that are going to watch this on the replay, please share this with young folks, because there are a lot of pearls of wisdom in his conversation. And I think it's just important that we know about different careers, what it looks like, and having that balance. That's so important. Dr. Lloyd, I thank you so much for
You're
joining us
welcome.
this
You're
evening.
welcome.
Folks that are listening in, make sure you're here next Monday for another college and career conversations. I might have a guest, or it might just be me. So either way, I hope you tune in, and take care, everyone. Dr. Lloyd, just stay on for a minute. So
Okay.
everyone, take care, and hopefully I will see you next Monday for another college and career conversations. So be good.